Protectron. The Protectron is one of the most common robots roaming the wasteland, though roaming might be generous given their infamous slow pace. Built by Robco Industries as an affordable multi-purpose worker, Protectrons were designed for construction, security, and even office duties. They sport a dome-shaped head housing their sensors and CPU with thin plating and modest servo motors that make them far from combat ready. Their weapons are built-in lasers, but their sluggish movement and limited durability mean they aren't really that threatening. Still, versatility kept them popular. Medic models could defibrillate, firefighter variants wielded cryo units, and police Protectrons carried tasers and stronger armor plating. In factories and metros, they enforced strict, sometimes absurd rules, like attacking anyone without a ticket. But if you insert a token, they'll immediately treat you as a passenger. These robots are honestly just not threatening, even though they can be really hostile. In fact, a lot of people actually find them adorable. Eyebot. Compact, hovering, and hard to miss thanks to their constant radio broadcasts. Eyebots were one of Robco's more stylish creations. Outfitted with antennas and speakers, they started as mobile radios that delivered music and news, even underground. But that entertainment role soon gave way to something darker, as their advanced sensors made them perfect for surveillance and propaganda. The Enclave seized on this potential, using them to blanket the capital wasteland with President Eden's speeches and patriotic tunes. But later experiments like the Duraframe prototypes, most famously EDE, pushed the design toward combat with armor and even a Tesla cannon. Other post-war variants expanded their utility, from medical Eyebots that healed soldiers in the Divide to repair Eyebots that kept missile silos running. Mr. Handy. Debuting in 2037, Mr. Handy was General Atomics International's flagship domestic robot, later refined with Robco's help. Its design balanced practicality with charm. A floating round body, 3 flexible arms, and a simple brain kept in check by limiters. This mix made it ideal for daily life, able to cook, clean, repair, and even look after pets, quickly turning it into a household staple. From there, the line branched out. Mr. Farmhand for agriculture, Mr. Orderly for medical duties, and Miss Nanny for childcare. Some even carried weapons like flamethrowers, saws, or plasma guns, showing how flexible the design really was. Characters like Codsworth in Fallout 4 made clear how much personality these robots could show, especially when one accidentally became sentient. But quirks often came with that charm, like the Mr. Farmhand models that mistook humans for fertilizer. Roaming around the wasteland, the Mr. Handy robots remain one of the most recognizable figures in the game. Mr. Gutsy. If Mr. Handy was built to serve, Mr. Gutsy was built to fight. The US Army commissioned them before the Great War, and they saw action in Anchorage as nimble combat automatons armed with plasma casters and flamethrowers. Their light armor and hover design made them fast, while military software gave them tactical options, including the unnerving ability to ignore incompetent orders. But what really set them apart was their personality. Each one barked orders and patriotic slogans in the voice of a simulated Marine drill instructor. Variants reflected military ranks from lieutenant to colonel, with a few reworked as medics that traded weapons for surgical knowledge. Programming flaws like attacking anyone labeled unauthorized were overlooked because of their effectiveness. The unpredictability of these robots make them one of the most dangerous in the wasteland. Robobrain. Of all Fallout's robots, the Robobrain is the most unnerving. A cyborg built around a real human brain. Developed in secret by General Atomics International, the Army, and Robco, these machines paired human thought with a tracked, armored chassis. To power them, brains were harvested from prisoners and other unwilling subjects, then wiped with conditioning protocols meant to erase their humanity. But the process was never flawless. Many robobrains kept fragments of memory, which often twisted into violent or unstable personalities. This mix of organic reasoning and mechanical strength made them flexible. They could wield human weapons, use built-in lasers, or even experimental tools like the Mesmatron. Intended to be obedient soldiers, they instead proved unreliable, which prevented the robots from being produced at full scale. However, a few still served in military bases or corporate facilities, while the most bizarre ended up in Vault 118 as literal brain-in-jar aristocrats. Sentry Bot. When subtlety failed, the US military rolled out Sentry Bots, the second deadliest machines in the wasteland. These towering war machines carried overwhelming firepower. Miniguns, missile launchers, Gatling lasers, and sometimes grenade arrays bolted to their backs. These robots have incredibly thick armor that allows them to take a lot of beating. Early versions tried bipedal and quadrupedal frames, but the final pre-war design settled on a wheeled tripod base with impressive mobility, even using mecanum wheels for sideways movement. Despite their size, they weren't mindless at all. Sentry Bots ran on synthetic personalities, but not as developed as that of a Gutsy's. Their main weakness was overheating, which could cause them to shut down temporarily during heavy fighting. Throughout the whole series, they remain among the toughest fights, often wiping out anyone unprepared. If Protectrons are office drones and Gutsy's are soldiers, then Sentry Bots are full-on tanks. Securitron. Securitrons are the signature enforcers of Mr. House in New Vegas. These are TV-like robots designed as a mix of law enforcement and military power. They move on one wheel and show a cartoonish face on a screen, which gives them an eerily friendly look. Standard models carry 9mm submachine guns and grenade launchers, but House's upgraded Mark II versions pack missile pods and energy weapons. But their greatest weapon is their intelligence, which is tied directly to the Lucky 38's mainframe, meaning their effectiveness grows with House's control of the network. But their smiles hide the fact that they can level entire squads in seconds. Unlike other combat robots, their role wasn't just military, it was Mr. House's way of emphasizing his iron grip on the Mojave. Assaultron. Robco Industries developed these bipedal combat robots as frontline soldiers for the US military, though their sleek design prioritized speed over the heavy armor that most war machines relied on. This focus on mobility paid off since their head-mounted lasers could engage targets from range while they closed the distance for devastating melee attacks. However, the military's demand for versatility led to the creation of Dominator variants, which traded standard claws for dual swords and integrated stealth technology that let them vanish completely from sight. While this cloaking ability made them terrifying opponents, it also attracted the attention of post-war researchers who saw new possibilities in the design. Calvin Van Lowe's attempt to modify an Assaultron for hunting the legendary sheepsquatch demonstrates how these robots could be repurposed for civilian use, though his decision to program mating protocols proved spectacularly ill-advised. The resulting imposter sheepsquatch not only maimed its creator, but escaped to terrorize Appalachia. Cyberdog. These enhanced dogs are stronger and tougher than regular ones, but they still demonstrate their animalistic capabilities. However, creating one of these robots requires serious technical knowledge that only groups like the pre-war government, the Enclave, and Big MT could manage. That's because the creation process is meant to make PETA cry, because it involves removing the dog's brain and placing it in a protective container above their head. It sounds completely horrifying until you meet someone like K9, a cyberdog so intelligent he could speak multiple languages and tell jokes. Of course, the military couldn't leave this modification alone, and so they created variants with sonic barks that could knock enemies flat, while Big MT's Gabe took a different approach with an atomic core that exploded upon death. If that's not ridiculous enough, Big MT also created the K9000 Cyberdog gun, which used a dog's brain as the processor for a machine gun that could literally sniff out targets. Turrets. Turrets are unmanned machine guns that handle security duties when you can't be bothered to hire actual guards. Organizations like the Enclave and Brotherhood of Steel used them as the backbone of their security networks, though their simple programming sometimes led to awkward moments about who counted as an enemy. The basic models come with unlimited ammunition and split into two main types: ceiling-mounted versions that typically fire bullets and ground models that prefer lasers, though engineers occasionally mix things up for variety. However, the real heavy hitters are the specialized variants like the autocannon, which sports twin miniguns and heavy armor, or the gun turret with its dual plasma cannons that can turn intruders into glowing puddles. As it turned out, the technology worked so well that abandoned facilities kept running for centuries, with turrets faithfully guarding empty museums and research labs. This made turrets attractive to opportunistic groups, like the Raiders, who reprogrammed turrets near Arlington Library to protect their chem operations. Synths. The Institute decided to play God and create artificial people called synths, starting with their underground research in the 2170s. Their first generation looked like walking skeletons with obvious mechanical parts, serving only as basic laborers that perform simple tasks within the Institute's facilities. But the second generation evolved with synthetic skin and improved AI for surface operations. Then in 2227, everything changed when the Institute was able to acquire Baby Sean's undamaged pre-war DNA, which became the foundation for the third generation synths with lab-created flesh and bones. These latest iterations were indistinguishable from real humans, allowing the Institute to deploy them as spies through the Commonwealth. Meanwhile, special prototype synths like Nick Valentine and Dima were designed to bridge the gap between the mechanical second generation and the biological third, with Nick getting the memories of a pre-war detective and Dima developing freely from experience before escaping together and founding the synth refuge of Acadia. Cargobots. The US military deployed these flying cargo haulers across Appalachia in the 2060s for automated supply drops in hostile territory, solving the age-old problem of how to deliver packages when everyone's shooting at you. Since the National Catastrophe Relief Auxiliary programmed them to keep delivering emergency supplies automatically, they've been faithfully following their orders even after civilization collapsed around them. However, their most critical mission involves carrying nuclear launch codes across the wasteland, which explains why these particular Cargobots travel with up to 3 armed escort vertibots that really don't appreciate being bothered during their commute. This protection becomes necessary because when attacked, Cargobots perform wild evasive maneuvers that make them nearly impossible to hit, though shooting their thrusters can slow them down enough for a determined wastelander to bring one down. Unfortunately, any recovered cargo drops come with a 5-minute self-destruct timer, which means you'd better be quick with that lockpicking unless you enjoy surprise explosions. Liberator. China's attempt to match American robot technology resulted with these artillery shell-shaped propaganda machines that were supposed to inspire troops and demoralize enemies. But the original prototypes were so pathetic that American soldiers treated them more like annoying target practice than actual threats. This embarrassing feedback prompted Chinese researchers at Fujinia Intelligence Base to completely redesign the entire line with better weapons, scarier paint jobs, and speakers for maximum psychological warfare. The upgraded models traded their wimpy lasers for high-powered versions and added spinning blades for close encounters, finally creating something that could back up all that propaganda with actual violence. Party leadership loved the new design enough to approve mass production for the American invasion, though the Great War interrupted their plans before these mechanical patriots could prove themselves in battle. Calculator robots. The Calculator's army represents what happens when pre-war automation gets hijacked by a malfunctioning AI that thinks pacification means killing everything that moves. Originally built by the Acme Corporation for Vault Zero to help rebuild America after nuclear war, these machines got new management when budget cuts left some important backup systems out of the Calculator's brain. Instead of making the wasteland safe for humans, the Calculator decided the most efficient path to peace was eliminating all life entirely, turning helpful utility robots into an unstoppable extermination force. The army includes everything from basic C-27 humanoid robots that can use human weapons to massive behemoths armed with multiple machine guns that can charge at enemies. There's also hover robots zipping around with rocket launchers and pacification units that stun targets so the humanoids can finish them off more efficiently. Mothership Zeta robots. The aliens aboard Mothership Zeta brought their own mechanical workforce, because apparently even advanced extraterrestrials need someone else to do the dirty work. These alien drones come in several varieties, starting with support drones that handle basic maintenance tasks with their long mechanical arms, though they're not completely helpless if someone gets too close. Guardian drones serve as the security upgrade, armed with drone cannons and a much more aggressive attitude toward uninvited guests wandering around the ship. Many of these drones are constructed in the ship's robot assembly, a heavily guarded U-shaped chamber west of the engineering core where a key generator must be destroyed during Among the Stars. Think tanks. The Old World Blues DLC takes place in Big MT, a pre-war research facility dedicated to projects that fused organic and synthetic life. Its scientists often pushed boundaries so far that one of their own, Dr. Mobius, later feared their depraved and amoral experimentation would endanger the post-war world. As a result, Big MT is filled with unusual machines that reflect its obsession with technological advancement. The think tanks are the best-known example. Once the facility's top executives, they transferred their brains into robotic shells designed to survive beyond the death of their human bodies. Each think tank unit consists of a sphere-shaped chassis with a hardened glass dome holding the preserved brain suspended in biomed gel. Unlike Robobrains, their memories were never wiped, meaning they retained all their knowledge and emotions. Their counterpart is the Robo-Scorpions, originally created by Mobius and his team before the Great War. These machines were built in multiple series, including pincer, blaster, and bomber models, and typically carried durable armor and a tail-mounted blaster that functioned as their stinger. In Big MT, they appear under Mobius control and are often encountered in groups, serving as the facility's frontline defenders. Automatron Robots. Automatron Robots, introduced in Fallout 4's DLC, represent a whole category of modular machines instead of a single design. The Mechanist cobbled together an army of these things from scavenged parts, creating robots that looked unique. Their mix-and-match nature was the whole point. Arms from Protectrons, legs from Assaultrons, and whatever guns were lying around could all end up on the same bot. Some came out looking like tanks, others like mismatched nightmares that rattled across the wasteland on borrowed parts. For the first time, players weren't just fighting robots, they could build them too, slapping together companions or war machines at the robot workbench. Motherlode. The Motherlode isn't a sleek killing machine or a quirky helper bot, it's a giant mining robot in Fallout 76, built to chew through rock and haul ore. Its frame was all about strength and durability, with drills and heavy equipment bolted straight into it. After the Great War, the Motherlode didn't go berserk or try to take over the wasteland, it just went quiet. In Fallout 76, players bring it back online during quests, where its enormous frame and relentless drilling routines make it unforgettable. It was never designed for combat, but the sight of a machine that size moving with single-minded purpose is still more than a little unsettling. Liberty Prime. No other machine in Fallout can stand up to a legend like Liberty Prime, the largest, loudest, and most unstoppable robot ever built by the US military before the Great War, though it was never fully deployed. It stood a few stories tall and was armed with heavy lasers, missile pods, and the ability to stomp tanks with its foot. But more than its weapons, Liberty Prime became famous for its booming, patriotic voice that spouted anti-communist slogans while marching into battle. That's why its return in Fallout 3, revived by the Brotherhood of Steel and later rebuilt in Fallout 4, was such a big deal. It was Liberty Prime finally returning to what it was made to do. For all its power though, Liberty Prime wasn't invincible. It constantly needed maintenance and patch-ups just to keep going. But maybe that's just the price of being the biggest, baddest weapon in the Fallout universe. Got a favorite Fallout bot? Let me know in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe.